And did everybody get that? That we have to note that things are being recorded and that we are consenting to our likenesses and comments. Could we have a quick roll call? Would everyone just announce themselves for the record, please?
John Lavoc.
Thanks, John.
Barb Jefferson, present.
Hi,
Mary-
Barb. Thank you.
Mary Tivy, present.
Mary, thank you.
Matthew Bulmer.
Matthew, thank you. Well, Jeff and Courtney and Hillary, I think you're guests here, so we can just record that also in attendance, please. I don't have any opening remarks per se. I'd like to ask if there's any pecuniary interest to be disclosed.
No.
No,
None.
if none, then we'll move on to the next item. We have two sets of minutes to approve, October the 4th and November the 4th. Are there, oh, sorry. Hillary, would you read the motion and then we open it for discussion if there's any changes, errors, or omissions? So the motion to approve the minutes.
Good thing, Mr. Chair. So resolution 2022-001. The resolution will just be that the minutes of the following meetings be adopted as written and distributed, unless the committee sees any changes.
Are there any changes, errors, or omissions in the minutes? If not, I would ask that the resolution be moved.
Mr. Chair, if I could address one comment in the minutes, please.
Yes, of course, Barb.
Regarding resolution 2021-030 from October 4, that resolution included the comment that the property standards bylaw be provided at the next meeting. I don't see that bylaw.
The next meeting being November the 4th?
I think it would have been, the next meeting would have been the November meeting. Yeah, correct.
Thanks, Barb. I think, could we, Hillary, Courtney, any comments on that? Was that just something that we missed doing?
Mr. Chair, yes. So the bylaw, what we're going to be doing is including that in our goals and objectives for next year, and we'll be setting up a subcommittee for that. So then that way we can have at least 2 members of our Heritage Committee here comment on that, and then that can be brought forward to staff when that bylaw goes. So yes, Barb, we can definitely include it, and we'll just include it with the next agenda as well, and then whoever would like to be on that subcommittee can work forward with the bylaw.
Now, I'm just wondering, in that we didn't do that and we're doing something else, how do you want to record this? Do we want to accept the minutes and then put that in as an additional item in this meeting, that exactly as you've stated it, Hillary, that we'll carry that item forward? I'm not quite sure, in that it's an outstanding item that just didn't get picked up. I'm not sure how you want to record that.
Mr. Chair, that sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah, perhaps we can record it as business arising out of the minutes. Well, I can move to adopt the minutes as circulated, and then we can include that point as business arising out of the minutes.
Okay, thank you,
Mr. Chair. Okay.
Yes, that's excellent. Thank you very much. Seconded.
A second.
Thank you. All in favor? Thank you. Opposed? None. Approved. Now, Courtney has other things that she has to do, so I'd like to move to item 10.1, I think, Courtney, is it not? Your report on the Heritage Register?
Okay, yes, the report first and the presentation comes
Yes.
second on the communications policy. Okay.
Yes, and if you would like to take care of those things right now, maybe you can carry on with the other items.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much, committee and chair. So the first item is just the update on the Heritage Register that went to council just in December before our holiday shutdown. So this was the Heritage Register that has been prepared by the committee, and it included the circulation to the individuals that were listed on the register, as well as a public information meeting and some engagement on our online platforms as well. So as noted in the report, we did receive the one objection from the one property owner, and that was brought to the committee, I believe, at the November meeting for some feedback and advice to present to council. So that committee advice was presented and council considered. They are looking for a little bit more information. There was just some discussion at the meeting as to the nature of the heritage value with that house, being that I believe it was brick. It had some specific characteristics to it that may have made it more of a special heritage feature. So to date, and Hillary can maybe give a more in-depth update, I don't believe we have received any objection from that specific homeowner at this time. But the letters went out just before Christmas, so we're still kind of waiting for follow-up on that. But the register was adopted as it was presented to council, as noted in the report. So that included that one property, and staff did contact that individual by phone and have a conversation with them about it. And then it also included the First Nations statement as presented in the report as well. So those have both been formally adopted by council. And I believe we have them up on the township website at this point. A little bit more in the report just for committee's interest. We are working towards grant funding to obtain another heritage student this year. So we haven't had one. I don't believe we did one last year, and I can't recall if this 2 years in a row we didn't because of COVID. So we're very excited to have this position back on board. It will likely be a remote position, so working remotely from home with one of these students. And if we're successful with the grant funding, and I think the majority of the work that we would like to see them do is to really build out the township website relating to heritage, perhaps put a catalog together on the website, really build out the register and try to highlight Puslinch's heritage and the structures and the register and everything that the township, the committee and council has done to kind of to highlight this in the township. So that's on our work plan for this year to hopefully get that in place pending grant funding, which is very exciting. Our team is excited to see that come to life. Part of that is the digital walking tour that we're hoping to get through Bang the Table, where you can actually click on a map and look at photos of these homes. So we're really looking for a student that has those skills that can take us there with the online. So that's the update in the report. Council also expressed their gratitude and appreciation to the committee at council, just with all the work that has gone into this over the many years that this has been kind of in the making. And in a good spot now with this on the website and formally adopted by council. So if there's any questions or comments, staff are here to help with those.
Anyone like to make any comments? Barb?
Yes, Mr. Chair, Courtney, I do want to express my gratitude to you for these two reports. Very concise and well written, and thank you for your oral explanation as well. I'm very pleased that this has been presented to council in the previous fiscal year, and that now we actually do have a registry associated with Puslinch Township. So again, staff, thank you for all your help in expediting this. And kudos to the rest of my committee members. I think we deserve a little pat on the back. It's been a long project. I'm glad to see that we've got something that we can table.
Thanks, Barb. Let's see, let's just run down the list. John, I see you're up here. Have you got any further comments to Barb's?
Well, Barb's kind of said it all. I'm happy to hear that we will be getting another student on. I think that, you know, one of the things that we have to really think about moving forward now that, you know, the register part of it is done, and we're literally years into the COVID era now, is I think we have to look at how we're going to approach new properties moving forward. I think there's a pretty good chance that the way we did it in the past will not come back. I think just, and this is all gut feeling, it's not based on anything other than that. I just don't see us driving up someone's driveway and walking around their house anymore. That said, can this be done virtually? Yeah, sure it can, but it's going to be tricky and there's going to have to be some ideas about how to do it. So if we do have a student that is web capable, digitally intelligent, maybe this can be something that we explore with that person, because I think we need to explore it. Otherwise, our role as a group of people that on an ongoing basis continues to evolve that register, it's going to come to a screeching halt. And that obviously doesn't make sense. So that's all I'd really add to that.
Thanks, John. Your points are well taken. Matthew, have you got any comments you'd like to make?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Courtney, Madam Clerk, for your excellent presentation. Couple of questions. So you mentioned about the property owner that everybody's been sent a notice to giving them an opportunity to once again have their property removed from the registry. Is there a time limit for that? Is it as 30 days, 60 days that they have to reply in to do that?
Thank you, Councillor Balmer. No, there isn't within the Act. So it's a little bit different when it's designated by bylaw, but when it's listed as undesignated, the township's required to send notice within 30 days, which has been done. But at any time they could come and object. So if properties change hands and the new owner perhaps feels differently, they could have the opportunity to come to council and object, and it would be received at that point. So they won't lose the opportunity as time goes by. So that's a good thing as properties change hands and the communication can stay open between property owners and the township.
Okay, so a property being on there is not assured that it's going to stay there. Any future owner or current owner could change their mind and ask to have it removed. But I have to say, I think members of the committee should understand there's a lot of goodwill around council in support of heritage, which is nice to see. So that was nice when they wanted to at least keep it on there for now and give it one more chance. I must admit I did let the team down a little bit there. There were some questions regarding how special this house was, and other than what was written in the registry, I was not familiar with this building, so I couldn't add anything. I am in no way anywhere near as confident as Mary is on what makes these buildings special. But anyhow, now it's good to know, better understand exactly what it means to be sending a letter. Just in one last point to Mr. Levac's concern about site meetings, I think we can learn a little bit from the county's land division committee. Here, our local planning committee does do visits when people apply for a severance, just even just drive roadside. But the county committee, because it's county-wide, is unable to do that. So they've been doing these property tours virtually for years. So I think it's being done on a property level, and I think we could probably learn from what they've done over the years on how to bring that relevant information to the committee in the form of videos and pictures when we want to do future things, if we can't do site visits. So as you say, I think there's a way forward, and it's already happening somewhere in the county. So thank you very much.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Thanks.
absolutely. There has to be a way forward, and what you just suggested it makes perfect sense as well. So, I mean, we're definitely going to move forward. My only point was figuring out exactly how. That's all.
Mary, before I ask you, if I could just interject a little bit there, I think, with human nature being what it is, memories are very short. And as this pandemic burns itself out, which it will, we may find that people become more receptive to having site visits. We may, we may be able to go back to doing that on, having, of course, obtained the correct invitations. I'm perhaps being a little Pollyanna-ish here, that I don't think things will return to where they were totally, but I think they will not be quite as severe as they are. But I think it's a valid point, and I think we have to keep that in mind. Mary, what have you, I know you've got things to say because your wisdom is so valued. I hope we can pick away at it a little bit more. What comments have you got on this?
Well, put the pressure on, John.
Yeah, absolutely, kid. Absolutely.
I think that I would like the work of the previous committees to be acknowledged here. Certainly under the leadership, I think, of Lynn Crow, the initial inventory of these buildings was done. And that was huge. When I'm just trying to organize the information about them, I'm recognizing how much work went into them, just identifying them, driving around the township and contacting property owners. So we really have just, I think, done some fine tuning with a pretty amazing inventory. I think the other thing that interests me is how the inventory will be used in terms of the township. And this is partly a political question insofar as will it be used to help brand the township as a place where there's significant heritage, where there's opportunity for cultural tourism, for driving tours, for certainly walking tours, for doors open opportunities. And that's something that is, I mean, really, this is almost a tool that has a lot of potential in the township. And I think there could be some great discussions around that. I mean, the inventory isn't sufficient unto itself. It has to be applied in some way. And thirdly, I'm wondering if there will be a process for adding properties. We did not include agricultural barns and outbuildings because we couldn't easily access them for review. And frankly, just dealing with the rationale for the residences and institutional buildings and so on and so forth was enough work to get this heritage registry up. So perhaps Hillary or Jeff can suggest a way whether or not there would be an annual update, or if properties should be brought forward at each Heritage Committee meeting. I don't know, but that's something we'll have to talk about at some point. And I think that's it for me, except that thank you to the township for working so hard on this and bringing this forward. I feel like this job was done well by everyone who participated in it. Yeah.
Thank you, Mary. Jeff and Jeff, Courtney, and Hillary, the three of you are in attendance at this meeting. Do you have any comments you'd like to make at this point, or has everything been said?
Just to Mary's point, and then perhaps if Jeff has anything to input as well. I think to Mary's second point about incorporating the register in different ways rather than it just being a standalone document. I think that we staff on our team has some really great ideas using some of our new platforms, online platforms, different media that we can use to kind of shine a light on it. So again, with the grant funding and the student, those things will be possible. It will form part of our proposal of our corporate work plan that will go to council to get their endorsement because it is a bigger project. And then I think pending that approval, it could certainly be something that is brought back to the committee to form a subcommittee to work with the student on and really get some great input in bringing that project to life over the next year. And then again, the register, we had the previous student that already did some great work getting those properties on our GIS mapping. So that's just a click of the mouse to have that launched. So those properties will be included on that for purposes relating to, telecommunications towers, buffering associated with planning applications, building permits, the various development applications that we will want to kind of note those properties of interest. So that's another way the register is being used. And then just to your last point, Mary, on how properties could be added, I do think that it's a discussion for the committee and the subcommittee on how frequently you'd like those discussions on the agenda. If you'd like to see them, annually, at each meeting, it will depend on how often and how much work is going to go into looking at those properties, but they are added through council resolution. So if when the work is done and we're ready to bring it forward, it can be done on a frequency that's kind of determined by the committee itself. So I hope that kind of answers the questions. And Jeff and Hillary, if you have anything to add, please.
Mary?
Yeah. Hillary, I think it would be great if something about this could either be put in the CHO newsletter, or that this is a heritage register that is more complete in terms of the most recent Ontario heritage legislation than most municipalities. And I think that I would like to see it get recognized. I would like to see that this can be used as a model, I think, by other communities who are struggling with this, because they formed their register at a time when they didn't have to really rationalize the property on it. So maybe that's something that either this committee could do in the future or the township could do, but to have some kind of a PSA or something that goes out to say, we've done this, and here it is. And we've got a statement in front recognizing Aboriginal occupation.
Yeah, Mary, I think that's a great idea. I mean, like the work that this committee and the staff of the township have done on this register, it does deserve to be recognized in other places as well. And I like that you're mentioning that, yeah, we do want people to know the amazing hard work that's been done on this. So yeah, I think that's definitely possible. We can reach out to this CHO and see when their deadlines are for the articles. And yeah, I think that's definitely something we can work on for sure.
Great, thanks, Hillary. Jeff, any comments?
Actually, I think Courtney had summarized the points that I was going to make. I guess there's only two other things that I could suggest, maybe just on the conversation of how we move forward with inspections in the future and getting properties listed. Another option too that I've seen is where properties can nominate themselves. So whether that's an application form on your township's website where the property can list their address and what the features are that they'd like to see protected on their own home. I'm not saying every property owner is going to do that, but having that option available, particularly those for new homeowners in the township who are unaware of the committee or the mandate of this group, that there's an option for them. So that's another thing that we could explore too.
Thanks, Jeff. You actually hit on the only point that I was going to raise. I was going to address it to Mary, but I don't view this registry as being static. I think it's something that has to be constantly and will be constantly reviewed, looked at, added to, subtracted from as we move forward, because I'm sure there are properties that may be eligible to be listed, and the owners indeed may want to be listed. So you've hit right on that point, Jeff. I don't have any other points to make myself. So that being said, if there are no further comments, we should have a motion to accept the report. And Hillary, I think you've prepared a resolution for that.
Yes, for sure. Mr. Chair, before I read that resolution, do we want to capture Jeff's comments about that potential form to go on the website? Would that be helpful to include?
I think there's any committee members have any comment about it? I think it's I think it's a very good point. Myself, I'm quite happy to have it included.
And if I could, Mr. Chair, Mary's suggestion regarding circulating the registry for possible publication I'm sorry, I don't know that, I can't remember the name of the document she was referencing, but if we include that in the resolution as well.
Certainly. Hillary, can you make the changes to the resolution to cover those 2 points? I think those are quite good points.
Absolutely.
Sorry to put you on a spot like that.
No worries, no worries. Okay, so that the report ATR 2022-001 Heritage Register be received for information and for staff to reach out to Community Heritage Ontario to determine when articles are due for submission, to include an article about the Coastlands Heritage Register, and for staff to include a form on the website for residents to reach out with information about their homes for a possible inclusion on the Heritage Register.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to accept the resolution? Thanks, Barb. Seconded. Haven't got everybody up here. Oh, Mary, thank you. Any further discussion? If not, can we have a show of hands to accept the motion? Thank you. Opposed? None. Carried. Thank you. Now, Courtney, I believe you had another item that you wanted to attend to right now. I think it was a 10.5 you wanted to cover off now so you can move on to other things. Is that correct?
I believe it's the communications policy training that we were looking. It was tentative because we were working on the training itself, but that's complete. So the committee is actually the first group that's receiving the training. So you guys are kind of our guinea pigs. So we'll see the questions and comments you have from this. So if that's all right with you, Mr. Chair, I can kind of proceed and just.
Yes, please
go through
do.
that. All right, thank you. So this is the advertisement, communication, and media relations policy. So staff have been working on this at the direction of council. It's been about a year in the making as well for this. It's combining our existing advertising policy and adapting communications and media relations policy into it. Specifically, the communications policy looks and touches on social media. So different platforms that the township is looking to launch. So specifically Twitter and Facebook. And it also guides individuals, so any municipal representative, in how they conduct themselves with their personal accounts when representing the township. So it's a comprehensive policy that looks at those kind of three main headings into one policy. So it is a lengthy policy and we've not circulated it to the committee yet. It will be coming in a package to everyone with the PowerPoint training. And then we have like a one-page guide that kind of summarizes it as well. So that will be coming out to the committee after this meeting. And staff are also setting up 3 additional training sessions for staff, council, committee members, our volunteer firefighters, et cetera, to attend over the next 2 weeks with just a sign off acknowledging that you've received the training and you've understood it, just as it has a lot of different impacts in your work, personal life, all the different ways that you conduct yourself as a municipal representative. So with that said, I do have a PowerPoint to share. And then opening it up, for questions and comments from the committee afterwards. And I will just say that there's one provision in the policy that is scheduled to go to council on January 19th. So we did not have a provision guiding external advertisements included in this policy. So specifically how staff will draft content that is going to media outlets outside of the township. So the different newspapers, things like that, whether it be for facilities, whatever type of advertisement. So we do have a provision that we'll be drafting and presenting to council. And so once we have that approved, we will be recirculating to make sure everybody has a copy of that information as well. likely at the end of January. Okay, so I'm going to try, oh, sorry.
No, just thanking you.
Oh, perfect. I'm
Go
going to
ahead.
try to share my screen, but it does something funny when I go into presentation mode. So let's see. You guys could just let me know if you can see this all right.
Yeah, I'm good.
That's good. Okay, perfect. All right, so this was approved by council on November 24th. See how to go to the next slide. Okay, there we go. So the policy statement. So really the purpose of the policy is to share information, promote openness and transparency and accountability. So it's really a guide to for users with our existing platforms and then with additional ones as they come on board. Puslinch.ca, which is our website, will remain the township's primary internet presence. So that's really where most of our information, if not all of it, is going to be. So that is the #1 resource that the staff is going to use, and that if we receive any inquiries, that's where we're directing folks back to, because that's where all the approved content exists. Engage Puslinch is our Bang the Table platform. So that's our primary engagement tool. So when we want feedback, when we want to engage in a back and forth, perhaps surveys, that sort of thing, that's going to remain our tool. So we're not going to be using, for example, Twitter to engage with the public. So it won't be something where somebody will make a comment and staff will be monitoring and replying back. It's not realistic with our staff resources to have those platforms function in that way. And it also just maintains consistent response and consistent information when you direct them back to our website or Engage Puslinch. So Facebook and Twitter will really be sharing tools where we'll push information out, but we're not going to be engaging at all with the public through those platforms. Where it is a really great tool for engagement, as we've seen on some other municipalities' websites, is, for example, if a resident is asking for a link to a meeting, for example, staff isn't necessarily going to respond to that, but another member of the public might respond and say, here it is, there you go. And it's those types of online communities that I think can offer support in that way. So we may see some engagement among community members. It just won't be involving staff. So the purpose of it is to provide excellent customer service in a consistent way across platforms. So again, information sharing, getting the information out there in as many different ways that we can to make sure the public is informed. And the policy also guides staff, council committees on how to develop relationships with news media to foster accurate and fair reporting. So we'll get to that section in just a few slides. So who does the policy apply to? So it does apply to all of the township's departments and operations. So that includes volunteers, students, staff, council, and committee members. The clerk's department will be responsible for coordinating the communication tools with the various departments. So again, we're kind of the hub of it in our clerk's department, and we'll be working with the other departments to make sure that their information is provided through these different media platforms, and that every piece of information is shared in a consistent way. So for an example, if I'm used to seeing planning notices coming out through the public notice section of the agenda, but I don't usually see perhaps like a budget item coming out through that. We want to make sure that every piece of township information that we want the public to have is coming out in the same way on the same platform. So if you're subscribing to one, then you're going to receive all the information as someone who's perhaps subscribing to another. So just making sure that the community has that information and can get involved where they choose to. The advertisements will remain with the current departments. So currently our facilities are maintained by our services department. So this policy acts as a guide for them to just approve content, again, in a consistent way. And then the media relations part of this policy applies to the specific spokespersons that will be responsible for interacting with the media. So we'll get to who those spokespersons are, as they are identified by position in the policy. We have developed a content standards. So we use best practices to develop. This is quite a long list. It's a comprehensive list. We did have it reviewed by a solicitor just to ensure that we are hitting all the stuff we need to hit. And then we really utilize some best practices set by the County of Wellington, the City of Guelph, and some of our other neighbors. So this content standards within the policy is in place to assist staff when approving and denying requests for advertisements. It assists staff in monitoring comments and links and posts, etc., on the various platforms. So just making sure they're appropriate and they're in line with the content standards. And then it also acts as a guide for any municipal representative. So that's anyone representing themselves with the township on their personal accounts. So just making sure that what you're posting is in line with that if and when you've stated that you work for a municipal representative. So the social media program platforms. So again, we currently have YouTube. So that's where all of our meetings are posted. So Council Committee and PIM, that has been going on for a number of years. So our website does have quite a few videos, and that's strictly what we use YouTube for, is just for posting the recordings. The township website. So again, that's our primary information tool. We have Engage Puslinch, which is our primary engagement tool, and that was new, I believe, mid last year. So we've had quite a bit of success on that platform so far, and we're excited to use it as we go forward with different projects. Twitter is an information sharing tool, and Facebook likewise an information sharing tool. So differing from an engagement tool. Administering social media. So again, the clerk's department will administer and maintain the township social media program. We'll do this by developing an annual calendar of events. So we will be reaching out to the committees as well to get some key dates and events and different things that we have on the go with our goals and objectives. Our committee meeting dates, just in general, will be on here so that they are pushed out for information for the community so they know when we're meeting. And so this will be used and developed collaboratively with the departments and committees and council, and it will be scheduled. We have a scheduling tool that allows us to schedule 3 months in advance. So that's very helpful. So we can have everything kind of ready to go, and it's automated. So again, consistency, and we have staff in place and tools in place to have those posts come out with different images, different things to accompany them to really grab the community's attention. There will be 2 accounts for Twitter. One will be for the corporation and one will be for the fire department. Now, again, this is because the fire department is looking to utilize their Twitter account for after hours posts if there are emergencies or things where they feel the community needs to know about them right away. So that's the difference between the 2 accounts, and clerks will be assisting them with it, but they will be, you will also see some posts after hours from fire department if you use Twitter and you choose to follow them. The post on the corporate account will be scheduled again during regular business hours. So that's a resource thing with the staff that we have, and the scheduling tool allows us to do that. So following accounts and resharing information. So this forms part of the policy. So it really guides staff, again, for consistency and appropriateness. So government accounts and local community organizations that are identified for appropriate for the township to follow. And then we also have a pretty, a good set of criteria for resharing information and which types of information we will reshare. And that's built into the policy as well. So both the clerk's department and the fire department will use this in who they follow and how they reshare information on any social media platform. And again, when the policy is circulated, section 6 includes those criteria. So external advertising program. So what is built into the policy now is the external advertising for the various township facilities. So when I say external advertising, it's groups within the township that's looking to perhaps have an advertisement on a board, within it. So we have the boards over at the baseball diamonds, we have them at the rink. And then we also have various boards within the facility, so right in the lobbies of them. So it's managing that type of external advertising. What this isn't touching on is the advertising where the township actually pushes information out to media outlets and that sort of thing. So the content standards exist to assist with this. So making sure that we're approving things in a consistent way. The next section of the policy is just highlights. So this section actually is lengthy, so I would encourage everyone to read this. It's important, but what we've done through the presentation is just pick up the highlights of it. So this is highlights for municipal representatives using their personal accounts. So again, this is if you have identified yourself as a municipal representative. So there's different ways that someone could do that. So it could be that you've posted a photo of yourself in a uniform, posted a photo of yourself in the workplace. Could be that you've put it in your employment description on your social media that you are, I'm the municipal clerk. That would be identifying myself. It's also using any of the township's logos or intellectual or physical property within any of your social media. That would all qualify as identifying yourself as a municipal representative. So if you're looking to do any of these things, it's very important that you ask permission for the use of that prior to putting that on your account. It's important that the township's aware and gives that permission to make sure that it's appropriate. So that's the first part of this. The second is just a reminder that there's no expectation and it's really not encouraged to deliver any customer service on behalf of the township on your personal account. So any inquiries that you do receive, they should be referred back to the township website, or you should be referring them to contact township staff by email or phone. Continued from that last slide. If you have identified yourself and as a municipal representative, you must include a statement. So this could be at the top of your account. Let's say you do have your name listed, or you do have a photo of yourself in a uniform. Then your account should state that the opinions are your own and they don't represent those of your employer. If you don't have any of that, but there's a specific post that you're looking to comment on that is related to the township of Puslinch, again, you need to be stating that when you make a comment, that whatever you're stating is your own opinion and it's not that of your employer. So if you have any questions with that, please feel free to contact the clerk's department. We can help you with that statement, developing it, and just working with you through that. The next is just do not discuss the township's policies, procedures, or any municipal representative in a negative way. This seems like common sense, and I believe it is, but it's just a reminder that as a municipal representative, if there's certain things that are a staff or council or decision or implementation of anything, it's really important not to speak negatively about that on a public platform in any way. And then of course, the last one, just do not post any private or confidential information. So if you are privy to that in your role, it's important that that's respected. The next slide has to do with media relations. So this is talking about who a township spokesperson is and who has the authority to make statements to the media. So this is a narrow list on purpose. So the township spokespeople are the mayor or designate, the CAO, and the fire chief or designate. So again, this is on purpose. So if department heads do receive information or requests or inquiries, we will direct them to the CAO. And the CAO will guide kind of the process for everyone on how the statements to the media come out. So whether that's a media release or just general inquiries, it really should fall on these three positions to kind of oversee that. If you're not a township spokesperson, then you need to refer all the media inquiries to the appropriate person in accordance with the policy. So my suggestion for committees would be, if you do receive any of that each committee does have a secretary, just be referring those to the secretary. Final remarks. So again, this just goes in general for personal accounts as well as to staff, anyone kind of that's utilizing platform in an online community. Sometimes less is better. Anything posted on the internet is permanent. Really important to remember. When in doubt, don't post. Can't take it back. It's on there. It's permanent. Always maintain privacy and confidentiality, and act with integrity, honesty, and respect when contributing to really any online community, whether personally or on behalf of the township. And that is it for my presentation.
Thank you, Courtney. Very detailed, very comprehensive. Any of the committee members like to make any comments about Courtney's presentation or points raised therein?
I have a question.
Yes, Mary.
Courtney, would it be you or Hillary or someone else in the administration that one would refer, say, requests made to the Heritage Committee?
So yes, I believe if the committee receives requests or any communication or inquiries, and those need to be forwarded to the secretary of the committee. The township and our department specifically is working on a procedure for communications out from the committee. It will be supplementary to this policy. So I know that staff are working on that, and we hope to have that circulated to the committee in the next little while. But in the meantime, before those specific procedures come out, staff would request that if any of our committee members do receive requests or inquiries or questions, that they be forwarded to the secretary for record keeping and for response to whomever has inquired.
Thank you. And also, myself and other committee members have published in the Pioneer under the banner of the Heritage Committee. Is it possible to continue to do that with submissions vetted by the administration?
So that is another piece that we're working on through the procedures, just seeing what that looks like in terms of pushing that information out to the external advertiser. So we'll be working on that, Mary, and it'll form part of the procedure.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Mary. Anyone else? Barb, John, Matt? Any comments? I have one
I
comment.
do. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Matt. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. I appreciate this. I know this looks like a daunting document, and we've been very fortunate here in the township. We've had very few issues with people are largely very respectful and understand this. But there is the code of conduct that exists, and all municipalities are required to have a code of conduct. And I see that much of this is to ensure that the communications are in line with the required code of conduct, which is, it's required by the province that we have it, and I think expected by our residents that there is such a thing. But I have a question. Just there was a piece in this policy regarding sort of a notwithstanding, I can put up a disclaimer saying I'm speaking on my own behalf. But if I were to do that in a private post, does that then exempt me from the requirements of the code of conduct that applies to all members of committees?
No, it doesn't, Councillor Bulmer. So it's still, you would still have to act in accordance with the policy in terms of speaking in a negative way about township procedures. But I think what's important about stating something is if it still is requiring you to act in an appropriate way in accordance with the policy. But if you are wanting to make a comment about anything, about maybe the ice rink being open, for example, you would have to say that's a township matter. So you have to disclose that you're a township representative and that you're not, this is not the opinions of the township. But with that said, your comment it still has to comply with the policy. So
Okay.
yeah, if that makes it clear.
It does. It makes it difficult, but I think this also allows for members of a committee, if they received a question such as, I'd like to have my house on the registry, it would be perfectly acceptable for a member of the committee to send back a notice saying, oh, there's a link on the township website. Here's where you can do that. That we're not trying to stop the committee members from supporting the community finding the information they're looking for.
Absolutely. And I think that the point on the in the policy that says you're not expected to deliver customer service, it's certainly not encouraged. But if it's as simple as here is a link, there you go, and the committee member is comfortable doing that, then that's fine. It's just, I think what we wanted to just make clear, there's zero expectation that maybe somebody in the township knows that you're on a committee and they come to you. It's perfectly fine to direct them to the website as well.
Yeah, okay. So it's not like we're the planning committee where someone might be asking us for a planning opinion, which would be way over our heads. In our case, it's likely more people be asking us, where can I find this information? Where can I find that? Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Matt. I'd like to go back one. I'm not a user of social media. I don't Twitter. I don't Facebook, although I do watch the odd person, but I never make any comment. I'm not speaking for other members of the committee, many of whom are probably far more adroit in using these communication techniques than I. Is there any chance of someone, Courtney, within the township organization having a little session on how you use Twitter, how you access it? I'm always loath to say anything because you quite rightly said it's there forever. So I tend to be very, very erudite in what I put on the internet. I don't want to read it again. So just a thought that I'm speaking personally in this regard. I'd love to know how to use this stuff so that I don't misuse it.
For sure. I completely understand that. I don't think our current training goes into the actual how-to of either platform. But when we do send out the media release, we will include links to those platforms. And I think you're able to view both without having an account necessarily. So you should be able to go on and take a look. But I agree that it's daunting when you don't know. When you're not
Heck,
familiar with how to use it.
I'm just gonna ask my grandkids. They understand this stuff.
Yes, and there's a lot of functionality in there as well, where you're able to
Okay.
turn off commenting altogether. So there's some flexibility in how the tools are used for the purpose that you need them for as well.
But if I'm hearing you correctly, a lot of it is self-educating. It kind of instructs you how to do it as you go along.
I would say that depending on how savvy the user is with just general media tools, it just depends, John, but I think they are set up to be user-friendly, both platforms.
Okay, thank you very much. I have no further comments. Any other committee members? Yes, Mary?
Thanks, John. There are times when I either write a paper or speak at a conference and I might reference the work of our committee. I might make a presentation based on the work of our committee. Does that need to be vetted by the administration? For instance, I published a piece in that newsletter of the Alliance for Historic Landscape Preservation about pioneer cemeteries in Puslinch Township. It didn't occur to me to have that vetted, frankly, although it was really a synthesis of pieces that you have and that were previously published in the Pioneer. But is that this sort of thing, Courtney, that also falls under the umbrella of this policy?
I think it's the way it's presented, Mary, and we would always be happy to look at that for you if you are in doubt. But if it's not being presented by yourself as a committee member and it's being presented by yourself independently, then that's different. If there's reference to your position on the committee or or that in that way, then the township would take an interest in having approval over it. But if you're ever in doubt, we can take a look before you publish.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Mary. So if there are no further comments or questions, Hillary, I think we require a motion to receive this, to accept the report that has just been presented, please.
So resolution 2022-003, that the committee communications training presentation be received for information and that the communications training information be sent to the Heritage Committee members.
I'll move.
Thank you, Matt. Seconded. Thanks, Mary. There's no further discussion. All in favor? All in favor? Objection? None? Carried. Okay, I guess that, Courtney, I think that's it for the presentations you were going to make, is it not?
It is, and I've just realized I'm not sure I can leave because I'm recording.
Oh, okay.
I may just stay on, but I'll be on mute and just continue on with the recording. I should have thought of that before, maybe perhaps.
Oh,
I
it's
should.
okay. Thank you very much, Courtney. Thank you for all the hard work. It's you've done very well. Thank you.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Then if we can go back then to the point that Matt made earlier with the approval of the minutes, of the prior minutes, to the business arising from the minutes. And I believe, Matt, this is where that would be the item that Barb raised. It would be appropriate to mention that at this point?
If Barb wants to bring it up again, that'd be great. We can make sure staff records it.
So my comment, Mr. Chair, was resolution 2021-030, that the verbal report regarding abandoned heritage properties by Mary Tivey be accepted as information, and the property standards bylaw be provided on the next agenda. So I'm questioning where the property standards bylaw is and what it is, as I don't see it on the agenda of the November meeting. Thank you.
Thanks, Barb. Hillary, do we need a resolution to, you summed up that will be presented at the next meeting or very shortly or distributed for review. Do we need a resolution to cover that, or can that be just noted in the minutes as an item that arose from the prior meeting and is in the works, as it were?
We absolutely do a resolution, Mr. Chair, just to formally capture it.
Sure, if you would like to do that, and please reference Barb's comment about that. She just want to raise quite rightly raise the issue.
Yeah, so that the property standards bylaw be brought to goals and objectives, and that a subcommittee be formed to comment on this bylaw, and that any comments from the Heritage Committee be brought to council for the next review of this bylaw.
I'll move that. Second.
I'll second that so we can have
Thanks.
a discussion about it.
Thanks. Any discussion? Matt, you were going to discuss that? You wanted to raise a point?
Yeah, just to make sure that this is the whatever process we go through with this is meaningful for the committee. I was just wondering, Hillary, do we need to have some sort of brief overview from staff to this committee of the role, the purpose, what a property standards bylaw does and doesn't do, can and cannot do, before the subcommittee goes off to have those discussions, so that the subcommittee has a sense of what they're being asked to look for? Or do you want to do it the other way around, where the subcommittee receives that information about, what a property standards bylaw can and cannot do regarding, whether you clean your windows or not, or keep shingles on or not, and then bring that to, I just want to clarify what is the best process to make sure this is the best use of the expertise and the interests around the committee.
This is an excellent point, Councillor Bulmer. We could really do either or, depends on the preference of the committee. Staff can prepare something that kind of goes over the details of the bylaw in more detail if that's helpful, and we can pass that along to the subcommittee members. We could do that first, or if the subcommittee members just want to take a look at the bylaw and provide their comments, and then we can meet with them after. It's completely up to the committee how they'd like to proceed.
If I could, Mr. Chair, I think
Yes.
maybe I'm going a little higher level than the details of the specific bylaw to start, in terms of what our property standards bylaw is used for. I mean, just to have that understanding, even myself as, we were involved, the council was involved when it took many years to go through the process to get the one we have in place. And just to make sure we understand what they can and can't do before we talk about what's actually in it and what we want to change. Rather than, what I mean, if we talk about what we want to change and then we find out we can't do it, what's the point of talking about what we want to change? You see what I'm getting at? Start at the top, and so the committee gets an understanding of what's possible within legislation. Uh-oh.
No, sorry, Matt. No, I was waiting for someone else. No, I agree with you. Yeah. We don't want to be spinning our wheels here. I think your point's well taken, that we better learn about what we can do and then work down from there.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Hillary.
yeah, our deputy clerk has his hand up. I believe he's got
Sorry.
something to say.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry,
No,
Jeff.
no.
I didn't see your hand there.
That's okay. I just didn't want to speak
apologize.
over anybody. Sorry about that. No, I just wanted to say further to Hillary's point, what we can do from staff is prepare a draft report to bring forward to your next meeting that lays out those parameters that Councillor Balmer was just speaking to. And that'll give the committee as a whole more of a general overview as to, I probably would say what the more limitations are of a property standards bylaw, so that you're working within that framework. And that'll give you a little bit more direction in terms of what you can do with the bylaw and what legislation says we can't do. So we'll do that for you, and then we'll attach the bylaw to that as a schedule. And if the committee so chooses to put together the subcommittee to review that in greater detail and put together some recommendations, what we would then do is bring that back to your committee as a whole and get the committee of the whole's feedback and endorsement on those comments, and then submit them to staff for the next round of enhancements and review of that bylaw, if that works for the committee.
Matt, you like
Thank
that?
you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Bunn. I think you've completely captured what I was looking for. And I think the committee, perhaps in that staff report, it could have, since this is the Heritage Committee asking for it, just look around to see if there's other examples of what other Heritage Committees have done or haven't been able to do, that sort of thing, as you usually do your magic on these reports. And I think also for committee members to get their head around, these processes are not one meeting to the next. This does take time to get through, because getting it wrong can have detrimental effects to the residents, and it does take staff time to look these up. So we have to be patient as we enter into this process, and keeping in mind we're only an advisory committee and we could go through all this work. I like the fact that we're going to go through this work and put it before council, but we have to remember that putting it before council doesn't assure adoption that day or that year, because they may want to have more kicks of the can at it too. So I think this is a worthwhile exercise, but let's temper our expectations that it may not get done within this year. So thank you.
Thanks, Matt. I guess, Hillary, I'm back to you on that. Did you capture all of the comments that Matt made, that Councillor Bulmer made?
Yes, I believe so, Mr. Chair, but also it looks like Mary also has a comment as well.
Mary?
Thank you. There are municipalities that have separate, whether it's a separate section of their property standards bylaw or a separate bylaw for heritage structures. And I'm happy to refer that I can find it online and refer it either to the township or, yeah, if that's to whomever should receive it.
Hillary?
Yeah, Mary, that would be great. If you could send that to me, I can make sure that
Okay.
it gets considered during the drafting of the report, and I can also send that to Jeff as well for review.
Okay, super. Now, do we need a resolution to cover all of that? Or is this just an item that is minuted?
Mr. Chair, I can amend the previous resolution if that's also easier.
Okay, that would be fine.
Um,
Okay, so we'll append that to, this all arose from discussions on the previous resolution, which we have not yet passed. So that can be added to that resolution.
So the resolution 2022-004 that the property standards bylaw be brought to the subcommittee be formed to comment on the bylaw, and that a draft report regarding the property standards bylaw be brought to the next committee meeting, and that the bylaw be attached to the next meeting agenda, and for further information regarding property standards bylaws from other municipalities.
Thank you. Now, the previous resolution had been moved and seconded. So if the amendment to it is acceptable, could I ask for a vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you. Opposed? None. Thank you. That's approved and carried. Hillary, we have something. I have something in the bottom of my agenda here, the consent agenda. What, I'm sorry, I'm not quite sure what that refers to. Item 7.
We've got 3 under section 7. So we've got
Oh, I
item
see.
7.
Okay, I'm sorry. It had moved over onto the other page on me. Okay. Yeah, now I understand. Okay, I'm sorry. So the item 7.1 then, next item on the agenda is the Community Heritage Ontario, the fall 2021 newsletter. Any comments on that? Hillary, are you making any comments on that?
No comments on my end, but if the committee has any comments.
Thank you. Mary and Barb, yes, please.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, I didn't realize you were going through the rule to ask for comments, but I'll just jump in.
No, it's fine. I am trying to watch. I'm trying to watch the hands on the right-hand side of my screen, and
so the item, I believe we're on item 7.1, Community Heritage Ontario, the fall.
Correct.
I'm quite impressed with this little magazine. I think they do a good job. But the opening article about that was so well crafted, but a comment jumped out at me: demolition by neglect, Conservation Authority. And I couldn't help but think about some of the properties that we have in the township of Portage that are owned and operated by the Grand River Conservation Authority, and also by some of our gravel pit companies. And we have seen where these companies no longer wish to be tenants and no longer wish to rent their properties. Consequently, these properties have been boarded up and they have been left. And I agree with the writer of this article that it is a bit of a loophole in our designation of heritage buildings when it comes to maintenance by the owner. So it was quite remarkable to me that another jurisdiction was seeing the same difficulties that we're seeing here. And again, I'm just going to repeat that comment. Demolition by neglect just drove it home for me. Thank you.
John, you popped up on the screen there.
Well, no, I mean, what more can you say about demolition by neglect? I mean, it seems that we can't get through a meeting without actually talking about it or experiencing it or being involved in it. And, I guess the bottom line is it all gets back to the basic principle of someone becoming a property owner gives them technically exclusive rights to do pretty much whatever they want with it, as long as they don't break any laws or bylaws. And if there's a building on the property that they no longer have use for, and they believe that the best thing to do is to take it down, they'll do it in the most expeditious fashion there is. Sometimes it can be a creative fashion. Sometimes it's just demolition by neglect. We're going to be living with it for a while, guys. That's all I got to say on that.
Yeah, no, yes, Mary.
Well, it speaks back to the need for property standards bylaw and its application. I've been told that the bylaw is a kind of reactive bylaw. In other words, it's not applied unless there's a complaint. And I was surprised by that. And by then the implication that citizens, it's a kind of citizen policing, to be honest with you, that I would complain about a structure owned by someone else, and then the township would respond to that rather than the township having the, having the policing, if you want to call it that, or at least the oversight. So when I asked about a structure, I was told that unless I made a complaint, the bylaw wouldn't be brought forward. Mhm.
Hillary or Jeff? Staff have any comments on Mary and Barb's comments?
I can speak to that if staff doesn't want to.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you, man.
Thank you, Mary. I understand your concern. And the other thing people need to understand is municipalities actually don't have very limited or little enforcement powers without a backing of the courts. So we can issue some fines, we can take some actions, but push comes to shove, the backstop is the court system. We're not government like the province or the federal government. We're just another form of corporation, another organization, and we rely on the courts to provide us that. And the history of municipalities that unilaterally just take action against the landowner when they get to the courts, one of the first things the judge will ask is, can I see the complaint that prompted you to take an interest in this beyond it being a health and safety issue? And so that's why so many things that in terms of bylaw enforcement fall to, as you say, citizen policing, so that when we get to the stage of getting something to back the courts to back up our actions, it can actually be backed up. And this is captured and reflected in, I think the township has a policy regarding bylaw enforcement, that unless it's a matter of health and safety, imminent fire risk or collapsing in on someone who's living in the building, our ability to do anything is very limited. So as frustrating as it is, perhaps this is something that staff can also include a touch on this in the report regarding how to use a property standards bylaw when it comes to both designated and undesignated heritage properties. So, but I understand your concern. I hear this regularly from residents who are frustrated that they have to go. If someone does make a complaint, though, they can rest assured that it remains confidential. But
Well,
the
thank you.
municipality still has to have it. So
Thank you, Matthew. That's explains, or at least answers questions for me that I had.
may not be what you wanted to hear, but at least it's an answer.
It's really useful.
Yeah, very good points. And well explained. And I think that is a reality that we have to live with at this point in time anyways. Any further comments on the fall newsletter? And Hillary, could we have a resolution to accept the fall 2021 newsletter, please?
Oh, sorry, I was muted there. Resolution 2022-005, that the Community Heritage Ontario Fall Newsletter be received for information.
Moved. Thanks, Barb. Seconded, Mary. Thank you. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Carried unanimously. Thank you. Next item, 7.2, the Ontario Heritage Trust News, December 21st newsletter. Gosh, it'd be nice if we could combine some of these things and have one large newsletter rather than a lot of little ones. Anyways, that is, I personally, I have not seen that. And that's probably my fault. Any further comments on this? Anyone like to make any comments on the Ontario Heritage Trust newsletter? Barb?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would just like to thank Hillary and Courtney for including this in our agenda. I wasn't aware of this newsletter, and I find it very helpful to have these publications attached to our agenda. We don't meet very often. I think it gives us a higher profile, and it makes us aware of what other groups similar to ours are doing. So thank you, staff, for including this in our agenda package.
Thanks, Barb. Are these posted to our website? These are sorry, links to these newsletters posted to our website, Hillary?
They're not. So there's usually sent to us via email or sometimes mail as well.
I wonder if that would be an idea. Anyways, just a thought. If there's no further comments or question, Hillary, could you read the resolution to accept the December 2021 newsletter, please?
Yeah, so resolution 2022-006 that the Ontario Heritage Trust December 2021 newsletter be received for information.
Moved. Thanks, Barb. Seconded. Mary, thank you. Any further comments? If not, call for a vote of acceptance. All in favor? All right. Opposed? None. Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 7.3, Standing Stones and Heritage Landscapes on Quisling Settler Cemeteries, an association for Heritage Landscape Preservation, Conserving Cultural Landscapes, Fall 2021 newsletter. Any comments on this newsletter? Yes, Matthew.
I really like this. This article really captured my attention, and right from the beginning, it started me trying to make up the list in my mind of the cemeteries that were being discussed here. And I was like, oh, it's too bad this person, when they came to do this article from wherever they came from, didn't let us know they were coming, because this would really be interesting for the committee to know. And then I saw it was one of our committee members, and I was thrilled. So, but to Barb's point earlier, this in combination, these three documents have really helped me understand why we're doing what we're doing. And, you know, it's budget time at the township, and each of these publications that we, or the organizations that we pay membership fees to, are up for consideration every year on whether the value that we receive, you know, from being members is worth the cost of membership. And as Barb said, the discussions in these, there was an article in here about Georgian buildings as well. I never understood what was the appeal until I read that article. But as even at our last meeting, there was an article about plank houses. And I knew we had one here, didn't think it was any big deal until I read that article. So I understand as a result of reading these that they do have value, and I'm glad to hear from other members of this committee that they do have value. So when I see them come up through the budget process, that what we're spending on them is well within line of the value that I'm seeing, you know, received by the committee members. So thank you, Mary, for this article. And by the way, does this mean the only one I made my list, and the only one that isn't on your list, I think, is the Farnham Cemetery is not considered a pioneer cemetery. Is that correct?
No. it is, and I think it was included in,
Oh,
yeah.
because I came up with 10 from your list. I thought maybe that when I came up with 10, the Farnham wasn't considered a pioneer one or a settlers one.
It is, yeah, it is,
Okay.
John, or Matthew. I just need to say that the name of the organization is the Alliance for Heritage Landscape Preservation, not association.
So noted.
As it's written under our agenda.
Hillary, you'll make note of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be changed in the resolution.
Thank you.
Could I have Mary maybe disclose the 9 cemeteries so I can match it? As I said, I was driving through the township in my mind trying to match up the discussion because it was fascinating. Do you have the list in front of you?
I have, well, I think I had 12 or 13, John, or Matthew, sorry. But that, that article was essentially a synthesis of a different number of pieces I'd done for the Pioneer, but also Barb had written a very long piece earlier in an earlier edition of the Pioneer on the Farnham Cemetery, but certainly I would consider it a settler cemetery. The Arkles are there, and well, just many of the early Euro-Canadian settlers from that part of the world, part of the township, I mean, are in that cemetery. In fact, I think one of the earliest extant gravestones is in that cemetery. Yeah.
Wow. Well, see, then you've outnumbered. I couldn't come up with even 13. I could only get to 10. So I'd love to compare our list sometime.
I do have a file folder, a file box somewhere. I could run and get it.
No, it's okay. We can do this
I
offline.
could send you the list.
Yeah,
Happily.
this is great.
You gotta clear this up, Mary. Matt's not gonna be sleeping now. You gotta clear this up.
And
Oh,
sorry.
Yes, Barb.
Mary, I have a question. So the Pelham test, is that how you say the journal?
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with that word. What does that mean?
It's a point at which, as I understand it, it's a point on a landscape from which you stop and view the surrounding landscape. Now, that's
Like a look at.
Look it up. And if I can just say that about this organization, I have belonged to it now since 2007 or 8, and it is the most energetic and exciting organization in the heritage field that I've ever experienced. And they're always in awe of us because many of these members are working for very high levels of government, federal governments, provincial governments, or state governments, because about 60% of the members are American. And a lot of them are also consultants who are brought in to deal with particular landscape issues. But when I tell them about the work that we're doing, it's really frontline work. I mean, we are out there trying to identify the heritage resources in our community. We're working to conserve them. We're working to communicate information about them. And so I just want you to know that we have an honorable presence in this group for the work that we do.
Thank you, Mary.
You're welcome.
Very, very nice. Any further comments? If not, Hillary, would you read the resolution to accept the report, please?
Resolution 2022-007, that the article in the Alliance for Heritage Landscape Preservation Conserving Cultural Landscapes Fall 2021 newsletter be received for information.
Move. Mary? Your turn. Seconded. Thanks, Barb. Any further comments? If not, call for a vote to accept. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None carried. Okay, now on to delegations. Make sure I turn the page over properly. I don't think we have any delegations for today's meeting, do we? No.
No,
I don't.
Mr. Chair.
And then the next item is correspondence. Hillary, is there any correspondence that should be brought to the committee's attention?
Nope, no correspondence items either.
Thank you. So that drops us down to the conference budget for 2022. Hillary, you're on the floor again.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I know a couple members of our committee have had questions about the conference and what the budget is like for that. So according to the Ontario Heritage website, so their conference, it is still scheduled to go on. It's from June 16th to 18th, and it will be held in Brockville. So they have released their prices, and it looks like registration will be starting in March, and we have until May 15th to get the early bird prices. So I touched base with our finance team to kind of get a look at what sort of budget we have to work for the conference. So right now, for the 2022 budget, we do have $500 for training. However, I did touch base with our director of finance because I know there is other expenditures that have budgetary lines as well. So we have, say, in mileage, we've got $250. We've also got accommodations for $500. And I did ask our director of finance, I said, if more committee members did want to attend this conference in Brockville, would it be possible to kind of shuffle around some of these budget items just to make sure that we could cover the conference cost for any Heritage Committee members that wanted to go? And she said that was entirely possible. So the cost of the conference is, it's $245 for the whole conference. So that'll be the Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And then there's also another option as well. There's $120 for one day only. So based on this information, is there any committee members as of right now that would be interested in attending this conference? And we can also make this decision if anybody wanted to attend the conference later or decided later as well. We can also have this conversation again in April as well.
Thanks, Hillary. Quick question. Have they announced the theme of the conference this year?
I believe they had. Hold on one moment, John. I did have it up. They're calling it the light at the end of the tunnel.
Oh, wonderful. No idea what that entails, do we? Anyways, I think your suggestion that I'm assuming that it's going to be as good as some of the past conferences that I've been privileged to attend, I probably would put my hand up now. But I think your suggestion that we wait until April and just see where we are, especially with the pandemic issues and all the rest of those things, it might be appropriate to defer any decision until then, until we have a little more information on what the conference is going to entail. Any committee members have any further comment? Yes, Mary.
Brockville has the oldest extant railway tunnel.
Yep.
And they've turned it into a light show, which I didn't particularly like the idea of at all, but it's proved to be a huge tourist interest and it seems to have done, had some positive effect on the local economy. So Brockville's my hometown. So
Ulterior motive disclosed.
I'll just put out there that lodging won't be an issue for me. Accommodation won't be an issue for me.
Right. So Matt, you any comments on this? Barb, John, what are your thoughts?
I'm keeping my eye on this thing to see what kind of people they actually and what the concepts are going to be. I'll keep the committee updated on that as soon as I see something worth talking about. But yeah, I would see most of us probably going to this thing because, as you mentioned, John, the previous ones have been pretty high quality. I wouldn't expect this one to be any less, especially since it's in Mary's hometown. So there you go.
John, you're muted.
There we, oh, sorry. Yeah, no, Camille got a phone call. She was just moving outside, so we wouldn't be disturbed there. Sorry about that. Thank you, John, for your comments. Do we need a resolution on this, Hillary, to defer any decision on this until our April meeting?
So resolution 2022-008, that the verbal report on the update of the CHO conference budget be received and that a decision be made at the April 2022 meeting for any committee members that would like to attend.
Moved. Thank you, John. Seconded, Barb. Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor?
No, John?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Mary, I missed that. My
Well,
apologies.
I just have a quick question about the April timing in terms of council budget approval. Is that going to be a problem for an item that, an event that takes place in June?
I think Hillary gave us some budgetary amounts that could be moved around to cover this and to cover any of the, any
So
committee member.
it doesn't need council approval then?
I don't think, sorry,
Yeah.
sorry.
Sorry, Mr. Chair. I believe the budget, I got this information from our director of finance. So everything that she's given me is pretty much, I believe, already approved and essentially good to go. So these are the hard numbers that we do have to work with.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. All right, that's.
I'm saying, sorry, Mary, I apologize. I missed the wave. I can't remember. Hillary, did we approve that resolution?
Yes.
Okay,
I believe.
thank you. Thank you. So I guess we're getting down towards the end of this. We're down to 10.3, I think, Heritage Committee goals and objectives from 21 to 22. Report thereon.
Yeah, that's correct, John. So I'll share my screen. We'll go over the goals and objectives. We do have, I guess, kind of 3 sub items for this agenda. So we've got, oh, give me 1 second. We've got the recap of the 2021 goals and objectives. If there's any other carry forward items from last year, we can also discuss that as well. And then any new initiatives for this year, we can have a discussion surrounding that as well. And then I can make sure to include them in the goals and objectives chart. And then the committee will see this reflected during the next April meeting when this is brought again.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I'm just going to share my screen. I believe that's going to be easier just to show everybody the chart. Okay, so starting with the first item. So just to update council, I'll be sending a report to council after this meeting, just kind of updating them on what the committee's been doing. So that'll be. The next item is the Doors of Crestland. Mr. Chair, I believe you had some comments regarding this project as well.
Well, I think John and I basically, as we reported the last time, kind of put this on hold until we see where this pandemic issue is going to settle down, because at this point in time, we have no method of distributing the posters. We need to get the budgets updated. They're a year and a half old now, and I'm not sure that they would be correct. And I will do that in the next few weeks. I will contact the printers, several printers, and get them to requote in various quantities. John, do you have any further comments on that?
I was just thinking of these posters when Jeff was, mentioning the concept of having people nominate their own properties online as possible heritage properties. Maybe once we have these posters, to put that up as an automatic, I don't know what the word is, giveaway is what it amounts to, is if you actually submit an application to us for your property to be considered as a heritage property, you will automatically get one of these as an incentive. Because Jeff, I think your concept is good, but I think we're going to need some incentives to get people to actually press send.
Good point, John. That just raised another thought. Are we sure that we've got all the doors of puzzling? Should this be something that should be updated? I mean, there's a lot of homes in Puzzlers that have beautiful doors, and that may be an ongoing nomination procedure. Nominate a door for inclusion in the next poster. Make this a live thing rather than static. I don't know, just a thought.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, this thing could actually be a living thing. Yeah, there's a lot of potential with this.
Yes,
I
Mary.
think we definitely have to get out of the current COVID environment first. Yeah. And no, this is going to be good in a lot of ways. I see that.
Great. Sorry, Mary, you were.
No, that's okay. Did we determine that all these doors are still in place?
No, we haven't.
And do we need owner's permission for inclusion on the poster?
It's already been the existing poster has already been published. And I suspect that since it's in the public domain, no, but I will check with one of our copyright lawyer types to just to make sure that is indeed correct. Very good point that you raised. Is a door facing the public access? Can that be published without permission? Just like you can't really publish somebody's face without their permission. I don't know. It's a good question.
John, we kind of looked into this already, and the way I'm remembering it is the poster is actually in the Wellington Archive. It's actually listed there as being the copyright property of the Puslinch Heritage Committee.
God, what the hell's going on here?
That's not me.
No, it's me. It's something that's happened here. Now it wants me to leave this meeting. I don't want to leave this meeting. Oh, damn it.
Don, is there accept decline at the top of your screen? Or else just,
All I've got is you're viewing Hillary's screen. I have no idea what that was all about.
what was
Oh,
your
well.
phone?
If it's important, they will call back.
Yeah, maybe they will.
And this is more important. Anyway, sorry, John, I apologize. I don't know what happened there.
Well, I don't know how much of what I said you heard, but my understanding, the way I'm remembering it, is in the poster's in the Wellington Archives, and there it is listed as being the copyright property of the Puslinch Heritage Committee.
Yeah.
So, and as you also mentioned, it has been published. At least
We own that one. I think Mary was also referring to going forward, because I do like the idea of making this a live project that can change over the years. Do we need permission if we photograph a door, if there's no other identification marks as to where the door is, or number on the building, or address, or anything like that? Do we need permission before it's published?
Probably.
I don't have an answer.
Probably be a good idea to knock on the door first.
Yeah.
The owner, if we can take a picture.
I'm just taking a picture of your door. I hope you don't mind.
Yeah, that's
No, no, very good point. And those are great points. And yes, and Johnny, you and I can follow up on that over the next month or two and make sure that we're not treading on any legal toes here. And Hillary will run it, whatever we find, we'll run by the township before any further processes are undertaken.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mary.
So does that mean then, I've just found the poster on my phone. So on that poster, and I'm sorry to come with these questions so late in the game, but does that mean that none of the doors are identified? They're just images of them? So if one looks at a door,
Mhm.
there's no indication of where the structure is that the door is part of. Is that
But
correct?
I don't have an answer for that, Barb.
Mr. Chair, I can speak to that. When the posters were sold, there was an identifying document that went with them, listing the properties, describing
Okay,
and listing the property owners at the time.
okay.
And I do have a copy of that.
Oh, good.
Okay.
That, yeah, maybe, Hillary, should that be in the township files?
We might have something. I can definitely check and see if
Well,
the
just-
township has anything on file.
Well, no, I was just thinking, since Barb has that, if perhaps, Barb, you might forward it to Hillary for inclusion.
Absolutely, but it was sold, when I purchased the poster, it was a package deal. You got both items.
Yeah.
But for sure, I can scan that and send that off.
Yeah, that would be great. Tremendous.
And if I could just add one more comment, I like your idea of this being a living document and using some of the platforms that Courtney explained to us earlier. We might be able to initiate a new contest for the Doors of Plislinch.
Yeah, that's sort
The
of.
historic one, and then having one going forward for 2022. It might be something for community involvement.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. Tremendous. Any further comment? Yes, Mary.
Or, I mean, we could, perhaps the windows of Plislinch, or, I mean, some other architectural feature so that, yeah, I think that's also a possibility. I don't know, but
Mary, that's a great idea. I've got about 10 or 15 posters from around the world, places that we've been, of doors and windows. And I have a large collection of my own photographs of doors that I've taken. I'm fascinated by doors. And it's a great, Barb, I love your idea. I think it could be very exciting and get people very interested, and also is a very, not huge. It's a good way of introducing people into heritage and the benefits of it. You know, it's very much a living thing. I think it's a great idea. I think we should certainly work on putting some flesh on those bones. So anyways, thank you. Thanks for that input. Sorry, Hillary, we got carried away there.
No,
So
That's
John and I will report back at the next meeting as to any of the legal issues that may or may not. I don't think there will be, but we will dig around and see what we can find on that. And perhaps the committee will come forward with an idea of making this as a bit of a living project. Thank you.
okay, perfect. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Okay, with you, I can move on to the next item. So we've got the Heritage Register. Now, our clerk did do a presentation on that, but this has been taken to council and it's been good to go. I have also included, also Mary and Barb are on our Heritage Register Subcommittee. I know Councillor Ballmer mentioned that the committee wanted to look more into the research on plank homes. So I've also got that included in there as well. So I can keep this on there. And Barbara, Mary, do you have any comments on that? Or is this something that the committee still wants to look into?
Perhaps I should put forward a bit of an apology. I haven't done no research into plank homes since we last discussed this, and when I probably said I would, but I'm happy to I'm happy to look into it.
Thanks, Mary.
Yeah.
Barb?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hillary, I'm not sure how this works, but as this item reads, I'd almost say that this is a finished task. But I appreciate what you're saying about assigning the new definition. And then also we did have a discussion about possibly moving our registry into barns and other buildings within the township. Perhaps that should be a new heritage registry item. It would be kind of refreshing to get this one off the books as completed. I kind of like the look of that being presented to council and then done.
Yeah, that sounds good, Barb. Okay, so just to make sure that I've captured this as well. So Mary, you're still going to look into homes, and then Barb, you're saying that also for the Heritage Register as well, we're going to look at, you two are going to look at barns and other structures of historical importance as well, correct?
I think that is a topic that needs to go back to the committee as a whole. I think the registry, as we've designed it right now, is residential structures. And going forward, I think there is opportunity for that. But I think that's something that committee as a whole would have to discuss as an agenda item going forward.
That's perfect. I can include that as an agenda item for the April 2022 meeting, if that works for the committee. Okay, perfect.
Anyone have any comment on that? That's fine with me. Okay, I think we're good with that, Hillary.
Perfect. Okay. So surveys were done. We've done that as well. For public engagement, I know the committee's got a lot of great ideas regarding that. I think the ideas regarding the Doors of Flint poster, on our Engage Flint website, and I know, of course, hopefully with our student, we're going to be able to do a lot more public engagement. Does anybody else have any comments regarding public engagement? I think it's going to be a really good year for it.
No further comments? I agree with you, by the way, Hillary. I think we're going to see a lot of changes this year, getting back to what the new normal or whatever they refer to it as. And I think public engagement is going to become important, and we certainly should take advantage of it.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so the next item is committee training. So of course, we'll always be looking for opportunities for that. The orientation packet, I believe so Mary and John Novak are on this one. I think we've got something in the works. I would just need to check with our clerk's team and see if we've got anything on that. And we can definitely send you guys a copy of that for comment, just so we can, if there's any new council members or committee members that, you know, at least you two would have had an opportunity to look at it. So if it works with the both of you, we can, I can touch base with the team here at the township and then forward anything that we've got prepared to the both of you.
I have a question.
Yes, thanks, Mary. Yes, please.
So Hillary, the advisory package, do you see that as a kind of a PowerPoint session? Do you see it as an online reference resource, or how do you visualize this information?
I believe right now we do have it as a PowerPoint presentation that's been given out. Yeah.
So you folks are driving this train then, and we are more or less commenting on it?
I believe so, Mary. We're definitely looking for input as to, you know, because I know both you and John have sat on the committee for a while. So anything that you think maybe somebody should know about the committee, or, you know, any points as it, any information that you two would could consider for that would be, I think, really valuable for it. So we are looking for your expertise as well.
Right. All right. So then I would ask you to forward to us as soon as you can what you've compiled, and we can supplement it or make suggestions around it.
Mary, would you think, and Hillary, I guess all committee members, would this tie in with the committee communications training? Can this be all part and parcel for our committee members, become part of that package rather than a separate package? I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud here.
Not a bad idea, Mr. Chair. I think we can look into it.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Matthew.
Right, yeah, I think if we're talking orientation package, I think of it as saying that whenever the new committee member joins the committee is provided to those people, much like when we join council, not just the first time, but every time after an election, we all receive an updated orientation package that includes a copy of the most recent municipal act, the municipal code of conduct, all those sorts of relevant documents that guide what we do and why we do it. And same thing I'm thinking here, those similar documents, but instead of the municipal act, it would be the Heritage Act, and or the Heritage Toolkit. There's lots of resources that Mary has guided us to, short forms of things that help people get up to speed quickly to understand why, what it is supposed to do on this committee and why they're doing it. And also something to explain what the role of an advisory committee is compared to council, or compared to a committee like the Committee of Adjustment that has authority and ability to bind the municipality through their decision. That kind of thing would be very helpful, so this committee a new member can get up to speed quickly and become a valued participant. I think that's what I see coming out of an orientation package. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Thank you, Matt. Appreciate that. Any further comments on this particular item?
John, I would just add that so if this was going to be a PowerPoint, format, whether we were presenting this electronically, more or less like exactly what we're seeing right here, right now, or maybe 6 months down the road, we'd be able to actually do it live. I think that immediate interaction is really important. Like the question and answer part of it is really, really important, as opposed to just giving someone a document and having them read it. I think in this case, especially when we're talking about the orientation of newly elected council people, for example, being able to ask and answer questions on the spot would probably result in a lot more immediate clarity to exactly what's going on, because describing what Heritage does over the course of one PowerPoint presentation as a one-way document is, I think a lot of that would get lost very quickly. That's all I had.
No, it's a very good point, John. I mean, my abbreviated trip to, or canceled trip to Colorado was for exactly the same thing, but at a corporate level. And the chap running it said, it just will not work in the Zoom world. They said, this is something that is very important, that you have really interaction, as much interaction as we can have. And I think your point's extremely well taken. And I for one support it, and Matthew as well. That it's, if we're going to do this, just a one-way, a PowerPoint presented to somebody, no, I agree. It doesn't have the same impact at all.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
Mr. Bunn has a few comments.
Oh,
as
yes,
well.
I'm sorry, Jeff. Thought you just popped up on my screen here. It's sorry.
I just feel bad jumping in and talking over people. I apologize. No, I just want to note that staff are taking note of all of this. And I think, Councillor Balmer, what you have explained is exactly what we're hoping to build out. We're also reaching out to the Recreation Committee to do a similar sort of what can we add, what's been missed. In particular, what we're looking for is, as members of the committee over the years that you've been sitting, particularly last year, is there things that you would have found helpful to have known or had up front, or resources available to you? And a little bit more, Mary, to your comment about the PowerPoint, I think what we're also looking for is putting together a whole package. So to John's point, it's not going to be, here's a package, take it away and read it and let us know if you have questions. I think we're looking for more of that Q&A style of training. But certainly
Great.
think back to the last couple of months or even years, even on this committee, thinking, you know, it would have been great if I had this information. That's what we're really hoping to tackle, because we obviously want to make sure our members are successful and they're being provided all the right tools to be successful. But if there's something that you think we could be doing maybe a little bit better or presenting in a different way, then that's certainly what we'd like to hear from the committee. So this conversation in and of itself has been very helpful, and I think we're aligned in what we're looking for moving forward.
Great, thanks very much, Jeff.
Thank you.
Any further comments? Great, thanks, Hillary. Carry on.
Okay, perfect. So the next item is the plaquing program. I do have an update for that in item 10.4 of the agenda today. So if it's okay with the committee, we can defer that until that item.
Okay.
Okay, perfect. The next item is heritage property visits. I mean, I guess we'll have to continue revisiting this until.
Indeed.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Thanks, John. And then the next section was the acknowledgement of First Nations sites and heritage. So we do have a statement that is on our heritage register that's been published. So there is that. I'm not sure, Jeff, if you're aware if the county has finished working on the land acknowledgement statement. The next item here, I believe last time I checked that was still in the works.
It's my understanding. I know Courtney's on the line, but from the last I've heard, it is still with the county, and we still have not received anything at the township to bring forward.
Thanks, Jeff. Yes, Mary.
And I've said this before, but in terms of land acknowledgement, the whole county was not occupied by necessarily by the same Indigenous groups. So I'm not sure what the county will say about it, but the Attawandaron who were in Puslinch Township were not north of Puslinch Township. And so there may be a need for the statement to be tailored to our location. That's up.
Thank you, Mary. You kind of summed up my feeling about it too. I'm not wildly enthusiastic with what we were presented with, and I think your point is very well taken. Hillary, I don't know, and Jeff, I don't know where we go with this, but in that we have someone on our committee who actually knows an awful lot about this, being Mary Tivy. And I'm not sure, Mary, were you consulted on the development of the statement?
Oh, well, John, I'm referring to the county statement. So
No, I realize that.
And we talked about the other statement that is the preamble to the register at our last meeting, I believe. And I don't believe anyone on the Heritage Committee was consulted about its drafting, but we did respond to the draft. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Hillary, is there any further items to cover under this section?
I don't believe there's any further items under the 2021 goals. I guess the next part of I'll stop sharing my screen here for now. The next part of the agenda item, so 10.3, the items for 2022. So I will include on the goals and objectives the review of the property standards bylaw. Would we like to get a subcommittee together during this meeting, or is that something that the committee would like to do at a later date?
When will the bylaw information be made available?
I believe we can provide that, and Jeff, absolutely feel free to speak up if I've got the timing wrong on this, but we can definitely do that for the April meeting.
So I'll suggest that it would be an idea that we have a look at that beforehand as a committee of the whole, before we establish any kind of subcommittee so that everybody has a bit of an idea of what we're talking about? Would that be appropriate?
Yeah, we can definitely provide that report by the next meeting in April, and then that way the committee can review it as a whole at that time and then decide which members would like to be a part of that subcommittee.
Great, thank you very much. I think that would be good. So I guess at this point, we need a motion to, Hillary, you're on the tap again. If you would read the motion to accept the goals and report on goals and objectives from 21 to 22, please.
A rather large motion, so we've got resolution 2022-009 that the heritage goals and objectives 2021-2022 be received. That Barb to provide the township with the Doors of Puss Lynch information, that John Arnold and John Levac to report back at the next committee regarding the Doors of Puss Lynch project, that the secretary includes an item on the April 2022 meeting regarding the expansion of the Heritage Register, that the secretary provide the orientation package for new members of council and committee members to the subcommittee for comment and review, and that the property standards bylaw report to be included in the next meeting and a subcommittee to be established at the April 2022 meeting.
Okay, can we have a motion, please, to accept the resolution? Thanks, Mary. Seconded. Thank you, John. Any discussion? If not, we have a, could we move to accept the resolution? All in favor? Opposed? None? Carried. Okay, well, we're gradually getting through here, guys. The plaquing program, item 10.4, the plaquing program and the next steps. Hillary, back to you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I did just want to provide an update on this. I know Barb's been really involved and extremely helpful with this one. She's been absolutely amazing on this project. So we had submitted as a cost, so for last year's budget, so the 2021 budget, we had a line item on there to create some plaques. So we've reached out to a company in Guelph that's been doing the plaques. They've been a little behind. I believe they said that COVID's been a reason for that. So they're a little behind on all of their things. I reached out to them recently and they did tell me that they would be able to have the plaques done by February. So I'll definitely reach out to them again at the beginning of February and see where we're at with those plaques. And then once they're done, I can also let Barb know as well, so that we can get going on distributing those plaques.
Sorry. Any comment? Barb, you still there?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Hillary, thank you very much for following up with the company. And yes, I do understand ours is a relatively small project and for a manufacturing company trying to come to grips with the current economics. But I'm very pleased that they're honoring last year's quote and that we'll be able to go ahead with this. Not that we have a place for these plaques right now, but it does give us an inventory. And up until now, we've had none. So that's the most important aspect, I think, going forward. And then, as Hillary alluded, we can start considering other places that are worthy of being on our registry. So thank you very much, Hillary, for following up with that. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Barb. Any further discussion? If not, Hillary, would you read a motion to accept your report, please?
Resolution 2022-010, that the verbal report regarding the status of Heritage Plaquing Program be received for information, and that the secretary communicates with Barb regarding the status of the plaques.
Someone move that, please. Thanks, Barb. Second. Thanks, Mary. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? None? Carried. Okay, I think, Hillary, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we're getting towards the end of the agenda. We missed it, Adam?
Nope. Mr. Chair, we've covered everything on the agenda.
Thank you. I'll call for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Thank you, Matt. Mary, thank you for seconding that. All in favor? Carried. Next meeting will be April the 4th at 1 PM, all things being equal. So thank you very much. And thank you to staff. You've done a great job as always, but it seems to be getting better and better as we go along. Great seeing everybody.
Thank you, John. Thank you, team.
Nice to see everybody, and I do hope we can get together in person very soon. Let's hope so. Anyways, keep well, everyone. Thanks, Hillary. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Courtney,
much.
if you're still on there, thank you
Bye,
too.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Everyone, thank you.
Everybody.
Bye.